Fin was built by a financially conscious company for other financially conscious companies. We built Fin as an alternative to complex spreadsheets, giving business stakeholders more time to work on their business rather than in their business. Whether it's project forecasting or simulating the what ifs of a business's future, Fin was designed to help you see yours.
Hey everyone, I'm here to give a quick demo of a new application that we have launched called Fin, and it's primarily used for forecasting the income and profitability of digital agencies or agencies in general. Service businesses can also benefit from this. So it's really something that my co-founder and I developed over the last 8 or 9 years of running this agency. It's something that helped us immensely, and so we're really excited to release it all to you so that you can benefit from actually knowing your numbers and, more importantly, being able to project your numbers going forward. And so a lot of you are probably thinking, well, I have QuickBooks and I have cash flow projections, I have things of that nature, and that is great. Accounting is amazing from this moment in time looking backwards, and it can also help you give a little bit of a real-time perspective if you're using time tracking software and things of that nature. But it is often a struggle to see how far into the future we can see and when are we going to run into trouble. What should our profitability be? The other time that these financial projections become really useful is if you've ever applied for a loan or VC funding of any kind. You will be asked to provide some kind of a financial projection over the next 12, 24, 36 months. And a lot of times that is all done on spreadsheets. It is done with pivot tables. It's done with all sorts of fancy Excel formulas. And even though I myself am a programmer, I do not enjoy Excel, and neither do my co-founders. Without further ado, let's take a look at how we can use Fin to help build some of these models for us. So when you first arrive at Fin, you're going to be asked to create a new organization, and you can name your org and create it and start your subscription. I have our internal org, but I've created this demo org for us to get started with, and this will allow us to start from a blank slate for a theoretical agency that we're going to be building here. But you can have as many organizations as you want. Fin charges per organization, but allows you to have unlimited users. So if you have other members that you want to invite to your organization here, you can do it at the invite panel. And we have 2 roles, admin and member. Members have read access to everything, and have read, write, billing, all the good stuff to access. So we kind of allow you to maybe allow your accountant to hop in here, or somebody who wants to just review your numbers without having them get too much access there to be able to edit too many things. So let's go ahead and take a look now at our recurring incomes. So we're going to hop over here to recurring incomes. There's none. Let's add one. Let's say we just signed a new contract, and we'll give it the I'm a rock climber, so we'll use rock climbing brand. Let's just say we signed Black Diamond, and it's a Black Diamond website project. Got a little description there. We're doing, let's say we're charging $10,000 a month for this, and we have a unit amount and a quantity here, and you can select from different frequencies. Justin and myself, we love doing the monthly payment plan for most people, and most website maintenance deals, but you can do annual, you can do quarterly, biweekly, etc. So we set up the monthly end date to a given project. You can add that here. And if you have a different type of a business model, let's say it's like a per developer, you might want to do let's say it's like a $5,000 per developer and a quantity of 2 or something like that. So I kind of give this unit amount and quantity as a way to give you some flexibility in how you do your contracts and what you're selling. It may be a hosting, and you pay per server or something like that. So you may have other pieces of your service package that you're going to want to add as a recurring income. So we go ahead and add a single recurring income in there. Let's add another one in here just for argument's sake. Let's say we've done the La Sportiva website, and again, it's let's say it's a website upgrade project, and we're going to be charging for that $8,000 a month. $8,000 a month. We do that. We're going to have 2 work streams working on that, something like that. But we actually want to add an end date here. The projected goal of this is to launch by June 30th. Let's say it's going to be a 6-month project. So we'll create a recurring income there, and we can see our end date. Let's hop back over to our dashboard here. we can actually start to see these projected out over time. So the first step here is you're going to see a cumulative projection of all of the Black Diamond contract, which continues to accumulate in perpetuity because we have no end date there. And we have the La Sportiva contract here that actually flatlines out at the 96,000 because that is where the contract is set to stop. So the accumulation stops. We can also view this monthly, and we can actually see this month over month. And if we want to, we can project this out over 24 months or longer and see exactly where our cliffs are. So we can actually take a look at that both cumulatively and monthly, and you'll actually begin to see, hey, this is where this contract has decided to end. Let's go in and add some recurring expenses. So let's add a recurring expense. One of them might be, that I know we have and a lot of people have is G Suite, and that's like the Gmails. And we pay monthly for that. I believe the rate is $7.20 per user. And let's say I have 5 employees. And I'm going to create a recurring expense that just goes on forever because that really doesn't end. So we can go and kind of take a view of that. And if you look at the individual expense, you can see that it's $7.20 times 5 every month. And that just kind of accumulates over time. These will just show those projections, and you can actually take a look at your unit amount and your quantity. But if you ever add a new employee, let's say we added 2 new employees, let's up this to 7 and update it. It'll increase the expense for us, and we can see that jumps up to $50.40 there. So when we come back over to our dashboard, you can see that the very bottom of that bar chart, we see that little email line item starting to creep up over there. Let's go into another recurring expense that is some of you may still have here in 2025 and others may not. We're going to add, let's do like our rent, right? This is the office space. Let's just say that we pay monthly. We pay, $3,000 a month. It's just 2025. We're paying $4,500 a month, and that's going to also happen forever. And we can come back to our dashboard, and you can actually start to see the rent taking its toll here on our books. The next piece of building a proper projection here is our employees. And employees are expenses, but they're handled a little bit differently. And so we had to create a different set of models for handling employees properly. If we pop over to employees and we go to add one, let's add some new folks. Let's add a Grace Hopper. She's our first programmer, let's say, and she's Grace at demoorg.com, and we have a rate, and there's a few ways we can handle this. Let's start with the classic contractor rate. Let's say that she is $50 per hour, and we have hourly or salary. Those are your 2 types. Let's handle hourly, and then we have a couple of other dates here. Start dates and end dates are for when employees are starting into the future or leaving us, so we don't globally in the org. Monthly hours would be something in the world of we want her to be working, let's say 150 hours a month. Create an employee here, working 150 hours a month. At that rate, $7,500 a month. We could pop back over to our dashboard here, and you'll immediately see that employee expense start to show up on our books, stacked on top of regular expenses. So you can see the proportion of expenses that are happening for the employee versus your kind of fixed expenses like rent and emails and all that good stuff. And you can also see that month over month. And you can actually see here that we're running into a little bit of an issue that after this large contract ends, we actually have this sort of situation where we're going upside down. I think a lot of agencies find themselves in this situation. And if we actually project this out over 24 months, let's do 36 months, you can actually see that your profit margin starts to really take a hit. So you start to lose money right around here. Starting in July of 2025, but you're not necessarily feeling that because you've accumulated a bunch of money from these contracts in the bank. And I think this is probably one of the most dangerous situations that tons of agencies find themselves in. And it's you are losing money silently, and you're praying somewhere in this time that you're going to sign that next contract that hopefully flips your books around. And if this employee cost a little bit more money, it would become a little bit steeper. Let's just take a view here and let's edit, and let's just say that instead of $50 an hour, we had to jump up to $100 an hour. We updated the employee here. We hop back over to our dashboard. You actually see that you flip upside down real quick here. You actually start to lose money over time very quickly. So let's go back over to the employees table, And let's take another addition here. Let's add, let's add Jane Smith and Jane at demo.org. And she is a virtual assistant, charges $25 an hour, and we have an hourly, or let's say it's not $25 an hour. Let's go with salary, and that's going to be $50,000 per year. No default monthly hours needed there. When we create the employee and we take a look at Jane Smith, we can actually see that this is the monthly cost. It'll project it out for us. We know that that's $4,166.67 because a salaried employee, the hours are irrelevant. We have to pay no matter what. When we head back over to our dashboard, see that compensation reflected here. Now, what I want to show you is really an hourly employee like Grace Hopper over here is really only accruing expenses if they are on a project. Otherwise, they're a contractor. We hire them as needed. So let's update our employee here and go back to our dashboard and see, okay, now we have a big fat profit, but the problem is we're not actually servicing the projects because Jane Smith here is a virtual assistant. She's not helping service the contract. She's helping us run the business on the day-to-day. So now we need to go into projects. This is really the key piece to building out the projection for agencies here. So let's add a project here, and let's add the Black Diamond project, and we'll add the SOW for Black Diamond. We won't add any of these expenses because none of these expenses are particular to the Black Diamond project, but they could. And this might be the web redesign or web maintenance project, right? Because this one is month over month. This is a month over month contract. We are going to need Grace Hopper to work on this, and we are going to say that she needs to be working on this part-time. They're not paying for full-time resources. We want her at 20 hours a month, and let's create the project. Boom. Now we can easily see, hey, look at this. We've got an 80% profit margin on this. Because Grace Hopper's a rock star. We only put her on this 20 hours a month, and she's completely rocking it. It also shows us how much money that we're making month over month on this project. And same thing, if we go to monthly, we can actually see this, that we are actually making $8,000 a month on the project, even though we only have an expense of $2,000. But maybe we realize, you know what? They're getting upset. This isn't so great. It's really more like 80 hours a month. And you know what? Jane, she works on this about 5 hours a month because she's doing some customer success for this project. So let's update the project there. We actually now take a portion of Jane's salary because she's a salaried employee and allocate it to the project. So you can see there's about $130.21 per month coming from there. And now we're paying Grace Hopper $8,000. We've only got an 18% profit margin on that, $1,869.79. So not so great, but let's just take a look. As long as we project it out, we can actually see going over 36 months, at no point are we actually losing money. So if we really wanted to tweak our profit margin, maybe we need to update the rate here and say, you know what, the sweet spot for this is about 40 hours for Grace Hopper, and we're going to keep Jane at 5, and we'll update, and then our profit margin's about 58.7%. So this project is looking good to us. When we go back over to our dashboard now, we can actually start to see that those project expenses become reflected. Jane Smith's rate hasn't changed because she's on salary. However, Grace Hopper has now accumulated some time here because we incorporate not just the default monthly hours, maybe she's working on some internal projects, but now we've incorporated the project expenses. And when we hop over to employees, we can actually see that Jane Smith is a salaried employee, only has 5 hours allocated to projects. So we're actually underutilizing her in terms of projects, if that's what we're looking to do. And Grace Hopper is at a 40 hours, totaling at $4,000 per month. So let's go and add our other project in here because we did have another one in here. It was the La Sportiva. And we have our SOW all set here. And Jane is going to be working on this. Let's say it's going to be more rigorous for her. So it's going to be more like 15 hours per month. And Grace Hopper is going to be also on this project, and she's going to be on this one for again, we're going to do another, let's do 40 hours a month just for argument's sake. We'll create the project. Boom. We can actually see here in our cumulative projection, this is precisely the point at which we've decided that, if we remember, La Sportiva's income kind of ends here in June. And from July onward, we're expecting the expense of this to drop off in some way. Let's take a look at the month over month. You can see that in June they immediately stopped paying, but up until that point we have a 72% profit margin, and then suddenly our profit margin goes to absolute zero on this, and we're losing $4,000 month over month. And if we take a look again at the 36-month projection, you can actually see the point at which you have gone into no return and you are in charity work land is sometime in October 2026, given what you've put together here. So what can we do about this? Well, this project is not quite as accurate as we want it to be. So let's go ahead and add some dates here. We actually know this project's going to end in July. So Jane Smith is only going to work on this until July 30th, and Grace Hopper's only going to work on this until July 3rd. Update, look at that monthly, and we can actually see we spend a little bit of money over the course, but if we look at our cumulative, we actually remain profitable. Let's take a look. You can see that it's completely flatlined. Our profitability has remained the same because these expenses actually end right on time or 1 month later than on time, which is a pretty classic agency problem that we can see here, which is, hey, we have a staff expense. You know what? The client wasn't entirely happy. The QA didn't go as well. They're like, hey, you said you'd launch in June. We're like, you know what? We can eat that cost. But what's really cool about this is this lets me know exactly how long I can eat that cost for. Because one thing that happens to agencies is suddenly you are in land of no return. And I want to know how before I'm way uncomfortable with this situation. And it shows you right here that, you know what, if I let this go beyond here, my profitability is massively hit. So, but is taking a massive hit. But it does show that you have a pretty significant amount of profit margin here to make things right with this customer. But it gives you kind of your comfort may vary, so to speak. So we'll go ahead and re-enter this this July 2020, July 1, 2025. Date in here, go back over to our dashboard, and you can immediately see our update here with Grace Hopper's compensation and it dropping off when that project drops off. So it no longer continues to accumulate past the date that we want it to. And if we kind of take a look here at 36 months, it'll show up. We got a little bit of an issue going on here that our compensation is taking a hit. So we can actually begin to invest. What is happening? Why is this happening? Well, we know that there's contracts that end at certain times. And I think the beauty of actually filling this out is sometimes this gives you your situation is ideally within this time frame, we're going to be signing more customers and building more deals. But this actually lets you know, hey, if you don't do something by this date, this is based on what you see, this is where things are going to run out. And again, we can go in here and we can see Grace Hopper's total hours. If we look at her hourly view, we can actually see the hours here and then the drop off in hours back down based on the projects. You can see that there's 40 hours currently assigned to Black Diamond. There's 40 hours currently assigned to La Sportiva, and nothing kind of going on in the global sense that's happening internally for the organization. And we can actually jump into the projects and adjust these things as needed. So we can kind of come in here and edit and say, hey, this maybe Jane isn't even on this anymore. We're taking her off the project, and you know what, Grace Hopper, we're gonna update this also. We're going to take this back from July. We're going to go with June instead as a start date, and it'll actually line up perfectly where, you know what, we're going to have a whole month of income, but you're going to be done early. Maybe that's the magical scenario. And you can actually see the updates happen in real time and really begin to reflect in our income statements. And you can see it right there. You can actually see, hey, month over month, we're running out of income. So these are the scenarios, but now you know exactly what project is the problem, right? We know that, hey, on this project, we have some issues going on. So we have to work on making sure that these remain profitable over time. All right. So continuing from where we left off, we find ourselves in a little bit of a conundrum here. We can actually see that the expenses are starting to catch up to our recurring incomes, which is not a good situation. If we actually project this out over 18 months, we're going to really start to see these gaps close in 24 months, 36 months. So we actually start to see a shifting curve, a bad trend. And when we look at this monthly, we got to see what's going on here. One of our customers that we had talked about, which is La Sportiva, has just a 6-month contract with us, paying $16,000 a month, roughly, coming in here. And even though we're dropping the staff off on that project, it looks like our staff expenses and our recurring expenses are still going to exceed the income from our single project that's left over. So one of the things I think agencies find themselves in a lot of service businesses, is you think, being an optimistic entrepreneur, you know what? I've got 6 months to sign the next deal that changes this reality. And if I look cumulatively, I can be even more optimistic and say, you know what? I've really got all the way until 2027 before this really becomes a problem. So there's no way I'm not going to sign a deal in that time. That's one way to look at it. I have found that over the years, that is not the best way to run your business. That is a fast way to the bottom. I've known many agency owners that end up in a very bad situation, constantly trying to sign the next deal before the profit margin drops off, but before all the income dwindles away. Don't do this. But what I love about this software is there's always another lever to pull that you often aren't seeing. So when I kind of take a look at this, a big thing that's happening here is if we looked at our employees, I noticed I had the salary employee that's only really allocated 5 hours a month on a project, and I'm paying them a monthly salary here. But let's see what happens now if we change this. And instead of doing a salary for employee, you can see here now our cost goes way, way down because we are only dealing with 5 hours a month now that's allocated to that project. And when we come back over to our dashboard, we suddenly see that curve has inverted itself. And while our profit margin is not super great, a measly 13% over here, which is not quite enough to keep the lights on at all times, it is not the worst thing in the world to do, because we now have staved off this idea that we are ever going to completely consume our income. We at least are remaining profitable through this time period. And perhaps the answer is then to say, for Grace Hopper, maybe we have to replace her with a different employee on our recurring project. So let's just hop over here, and we found a new employee. Let's call him John Adams, and he's j@demoorg.com. John is willing to work for $50 an hour, and we move him in. We create this new employee, isn't allocated any hours. We come over to our project. We know Black Diamond's over here. We know we have to increase the profitability of this. We've decided, you know what? We're going to take Grace Hopper off. We're going to move John Adams in. John Adams is going to take over the 60 hours or so that's required. We're going to update the project. The profitability is much, much stronger now because we've allocated a significant portion. We're running a good healthy profit margin. We pop back over to our dashboard, and we now sit here and we say, you know what? It's not so bad anymore. We've got ourselves back to that 46%. Again, we're still kind of, we still want to sign that other project, but sometimes that's the answer to our question here is, hey, we actually need to replace that employee to keep the margins healthy so that we can actually live to fight another day and offer a better yield here. And you can see that we kind of hold a 23% profit margin, which is a little more sustainable than 13%. So I think this is the power of really leveraging a financial projection to input your incomes, set the end dates when you think these contracts are going to end, unless you have kind of perpetual recurring type situations, organize them into projects, and at which point you can actually sit here and begin to tweak these numbers to make sure that at all times your future looks healthy, and understand how much risk you're actually taking on when projects drop off and how much time you actually have to make decisions.